this is Kelly Davis, your host of the Untold Miracles podcast, and today we have a legend on the show. He's an entertainer, an executive producer, an author, an illusionist. He's a 6-time Magician of the Year, most watched magician in internet history. He has dominated the world of magic, and currently he has a show in Las Vegas at the Luxor, Mindfreak. Welcome to the podcast, my friend, Mr. Criss Angel.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on, Kelly. It's great to chat with you.
Well, it really is an honor to have you on the show. I had the opportunity to meet you last year and just find out a lot about your character as a human being, and you are one of the greatest people on this planet doing so much good. But on this podcast, we talk about miracles, and you create miracles every day in your personal life and your professional life. And I want to start with your personal life. You started doing magic at 7. You were paid $10 for your first show. Were there any miracles involved in you reaching this level of success?
Well, I think it's a series of small events that lead to what your dream is, and it's perseverance and passion and stick-to-itiveness. And it took me essentially 18 years to become an overnight. But it took really a belief in myself and the love and support that I had from my friends and my family, and the being resilient, because, you know, anything in life that you put your mind to is not an easy goal. The harder something is, the greater the reward is when you accomplish it. I was just very blessed with a very determined personality. I was raised, my dad always instilled in all of his children that, you know, to work hard and to be determined and never to give up on your dream. And that was like a huge, you know, part of, I think, what made me as a kid and how I formulated my opinions and my thoughts. And I just worked really, really hard to achieve all of my dreams, and, you know, with a positive attitude and a good outlook and a belief that I have in the man upstairs. I think he gave me the strength to get through this.
Absolutely. Well, I remember being at your house last year, and you have a beautiful home in Las Vegas. And we walked into one of the rooms, and on the wall, there was a rejection letter from someone that you had wanted to do a show for. Tell me about that and how that was kind of an inspiration for you to work really hard to pursue your passion.
Well, in life, you have, you know, two choices when you come up with when something happens to you in adversity. You can either, you know, give up, or it can make you more determined and fuel your fire to achieve it even more so. And for me, I was always about, when people would reject my idea or me or what I was trying to accomplish, it would just fuel me more to prove to them that they were wrong and I was right. So I've had so many rejections in the course of my road to my dream. And that's all part and parcel to it. You know, if you want to be a doctor, you know, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to go to school. You're going to have teachers that don't like you. You're going to have situations that become difficult. But you can't give up. You have to always believe in yourself. And you always have to be honest with yourself. And so, you know, I've evolved and transformed as an artist and as a human being over the course of my life. And I always try to grow and become better at both. And so rejection, you know, you have to look at it and you have to analyze it and see what they're seeing. Not allow it to define you, but allow it to motivate you.
Who would you say has been the biggest miracle worker in your life along this journey?
I mean, absolutely, you know, God, and having that faith in your darkest hour. You know, when my son, you know, was diagnosed with leukemia, Johnny Christopher, you know, that was a really, really very trying time. He's doing quite well. He's been in treatment ever since. He'll be, God willing, completed with his treatment December of 2018. But he does chemo every single day. He was just with me. He went home last week, but because he had to do a lumbar puncture and some other treatments. But he does chemo every day, you know. And, you know, these kids that struggle with this horrible disease deal with life and death. You know, it's them having to deal with blood transfusions, lumbar punctures, chemotherapy. It's a horrible, unfortunate situation, you know, that these kids have to worry about this. They should be worrying about what toy they're going to play with, not dealing with things that no child should have to deal with. It's really very sad that that these kids have to go through this, including my own son.
Well, I'm so happy that he is doing well and he's going to continue to receive the treatment that he needs. When a 3-year-old gets chemotherapy, what does that look like? Is it a pill that he takes? Does he have to be hooked up to a tube? What is that?
Well, it's really a couple of different things. His mom, Chanel, who is amazing at dealing with his daily treatment every day, because she administers it at home or wherever he is, does it orally. It's basically a liquid that she gives it in like a little tube, and she gives him his steroid to keep him hungry, his chemotherapy, and his different types of dosages that she has to do, and different types of medicines that she does, and it's constantly changing because it goes in cycles. But every day he receives that, and then pretty much like once a month he'll go into the hospital for a heavy dosage, which he gets, through his port, which lives in his chest. And then he'll have to go in once a month for a lumbar puncture, which he just did a few days ago, which they check to see and make sure that the cancer is not in that area, which really is a magnifying glass for the entire body. That area you want to make sure is really clean of any of the cancer. And technically he's in remission, so he's been in remission for some time, but he has to boys go through 3 years of treatment, and girls go through 2 years of treatment typically. With cancer, it's so unpredictable in every child. I mean, the medicines and the treatment that they have today is far more effective with a higher recovery rate, which is beautiful, but no child should have a relapse. And I know kids that have a lower grade leukemia than Johnny, and you'd think in a million years that they would never have a relapse, and they do, and sometimes it claims their life. So it's a very scary thing. You're never out of the woods. Johnny's going to have to deal with this, for the rest of his life.
Well, you created the Johnny Christopher Children's Foundation, and you raise awareness for pediatric cancer and provide funds for research and treatment, and you really provide hope, and you really create miracles for these families who are going through the same thing that you've been experiencing. And I would love for you to tell me more about the foundation, about the big event that you did in 2016, and what you're looking forward to next as far as creating more miracles for kids with cancer.
I started doing work with children back in 2001 when I had a little show I opened up called Mindfreak on Broadway and 43rd. And I lost my father in 1998 to stomach cancer. And I always vowed that if I was blessed with success, that I would try to do something positive with it. But back in 2001, I wasn't successful. I was just starting out, knowing who I was. And I had a little show on in the city where I produced it, borrowing money against my mom's house at that time. And so when I was there working, I would get these requests and stuff like that from, different organizations with kids. And I started doing some work, and meeting these kids. And the WWE was right there, and they did a lot of work with kids. So I'd meet these kids, and I started, having relationships, friendships with these kids and their families. And, when they would go through really dark times or really difficult times, I gave them my cell number, and I was there and kind of saw the process and got involved in it, back in the day, and stayed involved with it throughout the course of since 2001. And then I had my own son, and then I found out that he has the very disease that I've been dealing with these kids, since then, which is really, a crazy situation to be in. But then you think about it, one child every 2 minutes is diagnosed with cancer. So there's a chance that, you can absolutely be in that situation yourself. And I found myself in that situation. And so I just felt like it was no accident or no coincidence. I just felt like I was in that situation, for the greater good of kids, to try to be a voice for these kids, because it's a very hard disease when it deals with kids to have to confront. And a lot of people don't want to look at that. But if you consider out of every $100 that the American Cancer Institute raises, less than 70 cents goes to pediatric cancer, it seems unjust. So I said to myself that I would be a voice, and that I wanted to raise awareness. I wanted people to know about this disease, to know about what their lives are like, and to try to raise money, raise awareness, and be a grain of sand on a big beach that hopefully can do some good. And, last year, we had a help event, which is called Help because it means heal every life possible.
I love that.
And it was benefiting the Johnny Christopher Foundation. And we raised about $1 million in one night. And all of those funds are gone. They've been put into different research and treatments. And 100% of every single cent that we raise goes to research and treatment. A lot of organizations raise money, and then they take out expenses or overhead or whatever you have, salaries. I don't do any of that. I fund it all out of my own pocket so that I can assure everybody that donates, every cent goes, for research and treatment. And it's been great because all of the different research labs and people that we deal with, we earmark all the money so they can't take any money out for any of those expenses that typically happens. And if people are listening and they'd like to donate, they can go to crissangel.com, CRISSANGEL.com, and you'll see a banner right on the main page which says help. And you just click on that and you can donate right there. And you can know that your money is going 100% to amazing use.
Wow, I love it. I was actually just going to ask you for the website, so thank you for including that. I think it's really interesting, Criss, if you look back on your life and you talk about God being there for you the entire time, he literally helped you create this platform. So when this experience happened with Johnny Christopher, you have this amazing platform to help so many children. Like it's truly remarkable how God works. And I really appreciate you sharing that. I want to know, of all the kids that you've met, is there a specific child or experience that stands out to you?
Yeah. Actually, the first child I ever met, his name was Corey. And I met him at the WWE. And he was this little boy who loved magic, loved wrestling. He was probably 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. I mean, he was a kid, a young kid, And I knew him for some time, and he passed away, and that was a very difficult thing. Then in more recent times, back in when I just was on TV, I think it was in 2005 or 6, I met a Make-A-Wish girl. Her name was Angela. And Angela, when you looked at her, she looked very healthy. And you almost was like, this girl is sick. Like, she looks great. She looks, perfectly outside of her wearing a wig. She looked great. She had a lot of energy. And I remember taking her to my store. I was supposed to spend 15 minutes, a half hour. I ended up spending 6 hours with her, or 5 or 6 hours. I took her shopping. She spent the day with me. It was just an amazing time. I mean, I got a lot more out of it than she probably did. Right. But we had an amazing time. And what I do, a lot of these kids, I give them my cell number, and I say, hey, if you ever get down, you want to talk, you can call me. And we would talk quite often. And then it was just a matter of weeks, and it turned really bad for her, and she passed on. So all of these kids are featured in my show, every show, twice a night at the Luxor. Because I do, in my live show, a whole segment about pediatric cancer, and it really touches people that they're still with me every night.
Well, I want to testify to that because you gave me tickets to go to your show, and I was able to witness that. And it's so amazing that you're honoring these children. They'll never be forgotten. And I remember walking out of the show, and there's all of these boxes where you can donate, and people were just grabbing money out of their pockets because really you're so impacted. This isn't just an unbelievable show in Vegas. This is a show that is helping save kids' lives. So I would encourage everybody listening today to go see Mindfreak because it is creating miracles. You recently got a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. In the 90s, you said you were a starving artist, and you were at the Hollywood Walk of Fame looking at Houdini's star. And then years later, you're across the street from him, and Gary Oldman and Lance Burton and Randy Couture were there as you got the award. Tell me what that was like to you and why that meant something to you.
I've been blessed with many, many honors in my career, but the two greatest honors I ever received was the Chris Gracious Award, which was the Make-A-Wish's highest honor, which I received. And then this star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It meant so much because, when I was paving the streets, trying to make it, if you will, I remember being in California, as you pointed out, Kelly, where I saw Houdini's star and just thought about like his legacy and how that will be forever ingrained and will always be there long after his passing in 1926. So to think there's only 2,614 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and considering the history of entertainment on the big screen, on television, in live performance, and musical performances, it doesn't seem like a lot, because you think about the history and how many artists there were. It's just countless. But to narrow it down to 2,614 for a committee to vote on, it doesn't seem like a lot. So to have the star next to the Roosevelt Hotel, a hotel that Houdini's wife, Bess, would hold the seances for 10 years, a vigil, trying to contact Houdini on the roof, and Houdini stars across the street, is just mind-blowing,
Wow.
So it was a great, great honor to have, as you say, Randy Couture, who's a 6-time Hall of Famer in the UFC, multi-champion, heavyweight champion. I have Gary Oldman, and the actor's actor, and have Lance Burton, who has done 16,000 shows in Las Vegas before retiring, and the fans. It was just a day that I'll never forget. I mean, it was probably the highest honor, I've ever received.
You've done so many incredible things, Criss, in your lifetime. You have a lot of world records. What is the illusion that you are most proud of?
They're all kind of my children because I love them all for different reasons.
They're all your babies.
Yeah. In my career on television, I've done, over 1,000 different demonstrations. On stage, I do over 50 a night per show. So it's kind of hard to say what is my favorite because I love them for different reasons. And it depends upon my mood. It depends upon the audience. It depends on a lot of things. But always the new things that I'm working on or just got done with are my favorite things at that moment. And then quickly it changes into something else because I'm like, I have my show Mindfreak Live at the Luxor, and then I have a Mindfreak Live touring show, which I'm doing at Foxwoods in November and December of this year. And I'm doing 2 weeks next year. I'm working on my one-man show, which goes out in January, which I'm still putting together. So I have all different types of things that I do and different types of illusions, and I enjoy them all, but it's hard to pick one over the other. It's like picking your kid over, which kid you like better. It's hard.
Well, recently in March, you had an incident with a straitjacket, which you ended up in the hospital. And the next day, you're back doing your show, and you said, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, and you like to push the envelope. Where did you get this mindset from? Because I can't imagine having that happen, and then the next night, I'm back at it, and I'm gonna do this again.
Yeah, well, your body is a slave to your mind, So what you believe is what your body believes it can do. And I believe, because of my dad and how strong-minded he was, and how the determination that he had, and the will to live when he was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor's prognosis was like you have 3 or 4 weeks to live, and my dad lived for over 3 years. To the surprise of the Sloan Kettering and all these hospitals with supposedly the best cancer doctors, they didn't understand how he was living. But my dad did it because he had the will and his mind really control the actions of his body. And I think, what you put in is what you believe in your mind is what your body believes. If you believe you're not feeling well, if you believe you can't get in bed, then trust me, you'll be moping around, you'll be negative, you'll have every excuse in the book. Or you can choose to say, you know what, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to work through this, and I'm motivated, and I'm challenging myself. And I think that's how you have to look at things in life, and I think that in life, whatever you're trying to accomplish or do, you're going to come up with challenges. Things are going to confront you, and you have to build a strong mind in order to get through them and overcome them. If success was easy, no matter what you wanted in life, if it was easy, everybody would be successful, right?
Yes.
So it's those that are willing to put in the work, the years, and do it on the time frame that it takes to do it. The harder it is to accomplish, the greater the reward.
Well, I love you just gave me multiple quotes that I want to make as memes, but a couple other quotes that I read that you said are, when the mind, body, and spirit work together, I believe anything is possible. I want to know, Criss, before we close the podcast, what makes you so passionate about magic?
The human spirit in a way is never content. You always want to do more, You always want to accomplish more. At least I do. And I'm just a very competitive human being. I have to, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it the best I can possibly do it. I want to be the best that I can be. And, I've been able to achieve way more success than I ever dreamt of, in my craft. And, to have the number one best-selling magic show on the planet since I've opened, and having the most watched magic, being able to perform more hours of magic on television, and being the most watched on the internet and television is amazing. But for me, I don't really care about what I did yesterday. I mean, it's nice, but I don't really spend any time thinking about it. I think about my ambitions and my passion and my desire for what I want to do tomorrow. And I don't have to do these things. It's not like I'm doing it because I have to do it because I have to make money, or I do it because I love and I'm passionate about challenging myself to see what is possible. And I think when you're a little bit uncomfortable, it's what makes you rise to the occasion. You look at this horrendous, senseless act, this tragedy that happened in Vegas, and you see this horrible, horrific event, but yet you see it brings out the best in people, bystanders running to the aid of people and putting their life on the line. The human spirit is resilient, and it wants to, just by pure nature, most want to rise to the occasion. To remain number one, to remain there, it takes even more effort, more energy, more time. And so my biggest challenge is to try to find a balance in life. And Johnny Christopher gives me that balance, because I'll take him to Disneyland, or see Mickey Mouse, or do things with him, which gives me that balance. Because if it wasn't for him, I would just be consumed with my craft 24/7. But the charity stuff and doing help gives me an opportunity to still do what I love, but do it for the greater good of kids. So it takes me away from being obsessed with what I do, and that passion is able to be put and spent to a more important cause. And the most important cause and my mandate in life is children.
Well, Criss, my last question is, if there were 3 miracles that you could create in the world today, what would that look like for you?
One would be peace in the world, to realize that whether you're black, white, brown, or green, we bleed the same color blood. We're really one world, one people. And I think that's a very, that would be one. I think the second one would be to have cures for, these kids that, as I say, can't be a kid, cures for these horrible diseases. And then the third one would be for happiness, for people to be happy. We don't know how long we're going to have here. That's the great mystery, right? So we live moment by moment, day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year, not knowing when we're no longer going to be here. So it's really about making the most of it and putting a positive attitude and appreciating the moments that you have. And I have to remind myself of this all the time, because I can get angry or upset about something that happens in my life that really is trivial. And and that's what I do a lot. Like I think about something I'm going through that maybe somebody stole something from me, or did something wrong to me, or whatever it is. But then you think about it, and if you were on your deathbed, would that really matter to you? Or would love and happiness really mean the most to you at that very moment? And I think about my dad, who
who passed away literally in our arms, myself and my family's arms. And, you know, the only thing that mattered to him was love and being around people who he loved and who loved him. And really, you know, the things that are important in life are the things you can't buy: love, health, and happiness.
I love it, Criss. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you just so much for being you. I'm so inspired by what you do. It makes me want to be a better person.
Listen, I'm no angel, even though my name is Criss Angel. But I just try to be the best that I can be. And if people just try to be the best they can be, that's all you need to be. And it doesn't matter if you have money. You can always donate time. You can always, you know, provide just your outlook. You know, if you see somebody in need, you know, it could be somebody that dropped something, an older person that dropped something or needs help getting stuff out of the car. Treat people with love, and you'll get more love back.
Amen to that. Well, thank you so much, Criss. I really appreciate your time. I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for everything you're doing to make this world a better place.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
God
you,
bless.
Criss.
Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Untold Miracles. To support your local children's hospital and create a miracle in your community, go to cmnh.co/Untold Miracles to help create a miracle in your community today. $1, $5, $10, all the money stays local to help kids in your community. And if you enjoyed this episode, text LOVE-CMNH to 51555 to let us know and subscribe for more.